It is great to be in Nigeria and Lagos this week. This continent, this region of West Africa and this country of Nigeria are all super important to Uber's growth globally. These are markets that in some cases we've been in for many years, in South Africa for over 5 years, in Nigeria for close to 5 years. And there are markets that we're in more recently, and of course markets that we're looking at going forward. But if you think about where Uber can get growth in the future, you certainly have to think about many of these African countries and mega cities like the one we're sitting in today as big opportunities for us down the road. One very important thing for us to continue to have people understand, and we're doing this and you can really judge us by our actions around the world, is we are partnering with existing transportation infrastructure. We have an important role to play, but we're humble enough at Uber to know that there are subway systems and rail systems and bus systems that are in place in these great cities all around the world. What we want to do is to help enhance and be part of that ecosystem. So we're actively partnering with transit companies around the world, places like Denver, Colorado in the USA, in Delhi with the Delhi Metro. You'll hear more about these as we continue to do things like this going forward. So as we think about opportunities here in Nigeria, we are 100% focused on working with the governments and the regulators and the existing transportation providers like the bus companies, the waterway companies and others that may have great services there, that what they need most is the ability to get people to those services and from those services on the first mile and last mile. Every one of our market decisions with each product is individual. You know, one of the blessings we have at Uber is we have fabulous local teams with very seasoned professionals that are responsible for making market judgments on the ground. And so we look at these opportunities very carefully and very seriously. We know a lot about the two-wheeler and three-wheeler business from our experience around the world. I mean, if you think about the three-wheeler experience we've had in places like Bangladesh and India and Pakistan, the two-wheeler experience we've had in Asia, in other markets as well, we know a lot about these products. We're going to watch and see how this plays out here. And of course, anything we would do down the road would only be in concert with the regulators. We think it's very interesting. There's some interesting startups in the two-wheeler space. We're watching them closely. And we know that if you're going to launch a product, you have to do it as part of the broader transportation plan and regulation that the government has. We're really excited about Uber Movements. And what this is, it's the ultimate kind of example of our desire to partner with cities, ministries of transport, government regulators, to bring the knowledge that we've gained through being on the roads, running our products and services, and help share that appropriately with these entities so that together and collaboratively we can make better decisions about how these cities can be enhanced, how people can move faster from home to work, to activities and back home again. These are all just lifestyle issues and life-enhancing issues that we can actually contribute to by making sure that our data is looked at by appropriate officials in the cities that we choose to launch Uber Movement. If you think about regulators and governments are always trying to think about, it's one of the priorities they have, it's one of the priorities that the new government has here in Lagos State is traffic, and how do you deal with that? We want to help. I mean, that's a great opportunity for us to contribute what we've learned, not just in this part of the world, but elsewhere, into this system. What you do with that and the judgments that you make on that data is very important as well, and that could mean that different systems are put in place, different infrastructure projects are launched. But again, that's the government's responsibility and what they're going to do. We just want to, whatever they end up doing or are doing, to figure out a way to enhance and bring more people to these systems and from these systems in a collaborative ecosystem. We are in discussions around Uber movement with this part of the world, in this part of Africa. We have nothing to announce today on that, but suffice it to say that we're in discussions, and we've made sure that the regulators and government know that we have this ability to partner together. Uber Eats is a very exciting business for us globally, and it's just had great growth. It's served a fantastic need. It benefits our restaurant partners, our courier partners, and of course eaters around the world, foodies around the world, and in so many places, people that need food delivered so they can actually have access. And so we're excited about it. Uber Eats looks at markets with great scrutiny and very long-term approaches to how we think about what it's a good market to enter into. And so they make those same judgments, and to the extent there are opportunities in these markets, our teams will start looking at them. We have nothing to announce at this point. I actually have now lived overseas for over 20 years, living and working in different markets, and I have spent a fair amount of time in Africa, not in a business sense, but in a government sense, working as an election observer in places like Angola and Mozambique and Liberia in a previous life. And so I have a great affinity for the African continent, and I've had the privilege of spending a lot of time in a lot of these countries. When I come to a megacity like Lagos, I do think there are similarities to some of the great megacities in Asia. I lived in Mumbai for 5 years, and the energy and excitement, populations of 20 million plus, great transportation opportunities and needs. So sure, there are similarities, but ultimately every city is different, which is why we're very locally focused on each of our efforts and why our teams are very local. But I come here and I get energized. I do have a great interest and streak of trying to do adventurous things. I'm a big fan of the mountains. I grew up in the mountains, and I've had the opportunity to spend a significant amount of time in the Himalayas. And so I learn a lot from these expeditions and climbs and ski mountaineering trips, including Mount Everest and others, and apply that to work, because I think there's new and innovative ways to do some of these mountains, and I feel like right now I'm on the world's greatest professional expedition at Uber, working with great teams towards a great goal of bringing our Uber services to cities like Lagos, and that's as satisfying as ventures you can be on right now. One of the great privileges of these trips that we do, and I spent almost all of my afternoon today here in Lagos with entrepreneurs, just sharing stories back and forth. This is a two-way street, because we learn a lot from entrepreneurs at Uber, because ultimately it wasn't that long ago that we were just a startup as well. So it's very much a two-way dialogue. I just think this notion of moving quickly, but doing the right thing along the way is so important for these startups in Africa. And we're looking forward to continuing the dialogue with many of them, many of whom have become or will become our partners as we collectively together go after these opportunities in cities.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.